Thank you for joining us in This Week in Turkey. I am Murat Türsan. The rector of Boğaziçi University, appointed by President Erdogan, Dr. Melih Bulu, was relieved of his duties yesterday morning by presidential decree published in the official Gazette. His replacement is the current acting rector, Professor and Dr. Naci İnci. Dr. Melih Bulu was appointed as the rector to Boğaziçi University on January 2nd of this year, again by President Erdogan, sparking outrage among the students and faculty alike, developing into nationwide protests. Last Tuesday marked the 6-month anniversary of the protests that saw both peaceful demonstrations and ones that turned violent, wrought with arrests, detentions, and excessive use of force by both police and campus security.
There was a celebratory mood on Boğaziçi University campus yesterday, as months of both silent and energized protests raging for more than 6 months finally came to a close with what some are calling a triumphant victory. The protests began on January 2nd of this year as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan appoints the rector through a presidential decree, going against the university's age-old tradition of democratically electing its rector. On January 2nd, 2021, the appointment of Dr. Bulu as the rector immediately sparked controversy nationwide for what some saw as an encroachment of the conservative rule, encroaching on one of the final institutional bulwarks of secularism and progressivism in the country. Protests erupted almost immediately as the students rushed the campus. On January 4th, heavy police presence was seen on the campus as the gates were barricaded. During the demonstrations, police and protesters clashed, leading to the detention of 36 students by January 6th. Large swaths of people showed their support for Boğaziçi faculty and students during the February lockdowns by ringing pots and pans from their homes at 9 p.m. each night. The protests quickly spread across the country and to other universities and drew attention even from the highest levels of government in the U.S.
We are closely monitoring peaceful demonstrations against the appointment of a new rector at Boğaziçi University in Turkey. We are concerned by detentions of students and other demonstrators and strongly condemn the anti-LGBTQI rhetoric surrounding the demonstrations.
However, the students and faculty at Boğaziçi were not deterred, continuing to hold silent protests on campus daily. This all came to a halt yesterday, however. Protests were replaced with glee, where the same kind of presidential decree that appointed Dr. Bulu relieved him of his position.
Joining me now to comment on the matter, both Doctor of Political Sciences from South Dakota State University and Boğaziçi University, respectively Dr. Evren Çelik-Wiltse and Dr. Emine Eder, alma maters, both being Boğaziçi University, of course. Doctors, welcome, and I'd like to start off by congratulating you both for ushering in what is no doubt a historic day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Eder, I want to start off by asking you, what is both your mood and mood at the Boğaziçi after yesterday's developments?
Joy and caution.
Joy and caution.
We are obviously overjoyed, primarily because it's one of the rare occasions where we just feel our voice has been heard, because it's been a long 6 months. And we were deliberately or undeliberately, directly or indirectly, totally neglected throughout these 6 months. We kept on going on with our peaceful protests, explaining this is not how to run a university. The academic freedoms are very important. We have our own tradition of democratic governance. You can't securitize the campus. We kept on pounding these complaints and keeping our damage list on a continuous basis and making our voice heard all the time. thinking throughout this process that we are not being heard. And I'm finally, we're very overjoyed by the fact that this is not unsustainable and that a new phase is now starting. Now, having said that, so we are overjoyed, but we are sort of anticipating the next phase with some caution, primarily because we just heard, for example, just today, that there is going to be a new job opening call for the law faculty that we have now filed suit against, and we've been fighting with the legal cases against the opening of these top-down two faculties, and there is a complete violation of all the Senate rules and University Council rules throughout this process, and that's still continuing. And the acting rector now, who was also the vice provost of the earlier administration, appears like they're going to continue on with their agenda of overtaking Boğaziçi and literally damaging every single democratic tradition that exists in this campus. So we are, as much as we are celebrating, we're back to our vigilant protest today, and we kept our vigilant protest, and we'll continue to do that after the break, and we're going to be very vigilantly watching what this new vice rector is doing.
I see. And Dr. Çelik-Wiltse, could you sum up your feelings? I know that you've been very active in the protests as well. And do you share her sentiments?
Absolutely. I was kind of, I have to, give all the credit to my professors and to the students and to, even the administrative staff. We, as the alumni, we tried to support, but we were incredibly cautious. Like all the meetings I attended, we wanted to write, we drafted a couple of op-eds, but it was like calculating every word. Could we possibly do some harm to this incredibly honorable and dignified and legal resistance? So we're walking on a very thin line, showing our support. Between, not agitating and not making matters worse, but also expressing our solidarity with our alma mater. So that was, the general sentiment with the alumni. And I have to, say, there is a very strong network of academics who got their first degrees, undergrad or, master's degrees from Boğaziçi. A lot of them are now currently employed in Turkey. But when we speak with them, they express solidarity, but they stay silent. So we have to give, and I feel like I have to express their concerns, and they stand with Boğaziçi. But obviously the political atmosphere, we're not in a bubble. But there was incredibly heartfelt support. And the longer it took, the more we were humbled by the commitment of our faculty, our professors, by the students, that it's rain or shine or, beatings, arrest, that they would not budge, So it's like and that's the other thing. For some, it infuriates how, the centrally appointed rectors were sent to over 100 universities. And why is it just that one is still resisting? Because that shows that this is a very special case. There's so much to say, but so little to say. One thing I want to express, like I worked in multiple institutions in Turkey before I came back to the States. Obviously, we have a very hierarchical society, and universities are very hierarchical. We have, the stages. When you have power in hierarchy, there's two ways you can act. You can exercise the power, or you can choose not to exercise that power and deliberate and use it democratically and use it collectively. So that was the specialty of Boğaziçi, that those in power would not exercise it, would not use it. Just very simple symbolic things. For example, the rectors, the associate rectors, the provosts, and the deans even have assigned cars in other universities. We would never see that in Boğaziçi. Like, I was like, why does the dean have a driver and a car and driver? Because they opted at Boğaziçi to not use that car. And with this new administration, the two vice rectors who, operated with the appointed Mr. Bulu, they got those cars back. That is a very symbolic indicator of how they are ruling, how they want to rule. They don't mingle with the university. They don't go buy, tea or a piece of toast without the security guards. What kind of a leadership is this that it doesn't like to mingle with the students and it cannot walk over to get some, a Coke or, a cup of tea without security guards?
I see. Thank you for that summation. I wanted to get back to you, Dr. Eder. Now, you had mentioned that you had recently filed a lawsuit. My follow-up question was going to be, are you expecting this to be a permanent victory, or is this a harbinger of more things to come? But I think it is the latter in your case. Do you think you could expand on that?
I don't want to be the, look, I don't have my coffee cup, right? I wish I did. But suffice to say that this was remarkable. I mean, I even myself had a hard time to believe, because it's not, it's such an exceptional case. But what was so remarkable about the whole 6 months as well is that we also, as the faculty members at the university, discovered what solidarity means. Literally, it was a life-transforming experience for all of us, because I frankly didn't know or didn't care that much about the engineering people, right? I didn't know my colleagues in the engineering department, or in foreign languages, or in in different institutes, right? So what this created, is the sense of community that I knew it was there, but I had taken for granted for so many years, right? It just sort of created a new sense of solidarity, and I think that's when, sort of going back into Evren's point of exceptionalism. I didn't expect. I mean, Boğaziçi has this sort of ethos about individualism and sort of individual success, and instead we had an enormous number of faculty members. Our retired faculty members. I mean, every Friday I see a retired faculty member that comes limping into our vigil. I mean, that brings tears to my eyes. Basically, because it is a sort of a sense of commitment to this university way beyond your career, right? I mean, and so this is a home to one of us. So, we're students here, we're faculty members, and we're probably retired, and we'll come back and be an alumni and still be engaged. So this is a place that we call home, and that is why so many people, unlike what some of the other universities have come out and protested so peacefully, yet so vigilantly and meticulously over these days, which is why I am confident that whatever happens in the next phase is that we will make sure that it is democratic, that our principles are observed, and anyone who does not, pay any attention or does not take into those principles, to Boğaziçi principles into account, will be subject to the same set of protests. You can be sure of that we're not going to budge on that. But in the meantime, we are hoping that we can, bring about a change in the way these rectors are appointed, in the way this whole higher education system is operating, because we have a larger agenda. In other words, this is not simply a Boğaziçi issue. Boğaziçi happens to be, became a symbolic place for this, primarily because we are voicing, as Evren is pointing out, we came through pure luck and through this kind of uniqueness of this place, became a sort of symbolic breathing ground or breathing space for people to express their protests or opposition to what is going on, to this kind of top-down appointments of faculties, top-down appointment of the rector, and basically we call for attention to sort of suggesting that we know what we're doing. We know what the democratic governance is about. This is a 50 years old public university, 158 years old institution that have really created a sort of arduous process of creating this kind of networks of horizontal governance. right? These are not easy things to build. And, sort of that's why we don't have these kind of cars or big egos or that take all of these, governance issues all that seriously. Because we do this collectively. A rector, a former rector of mine, President Erdogan, always says a good rector is a coordinator. Literally, that's all he or she is supposed to do. Coordinate different faculties, coordinate different commissions, create, deliberation space, and make collective decisions. That's it. That is being the process in this university, and that's what we've been pounding for all these months. And any single rector that is now going to be appointed will have to respect that. We're not going to settle for less.
I see. And Dr. Çelik-Wiltse, I'd like to get your opinion on the matter. Did you yourself, as you were participating in this long and arduous process, did you feel that sense of community come up, that camaraderie arose when push came to shove?
Indeed. There was in terms of the alumni network, we got into groups that I didn't even know we existed in so many different parts of the world. And any kind of harm that was done, to the university, to the students in terms of, cutting the scholarships or any other harm, the alumni network acted very generously. The alumni network mobilized. The other thing I want to emphasize is, again, one of the other, common conceptions or misconceptions about Boğaziçi is that they are geared towards, personal, individual gains and individualistic culture. But the thing that really moved me was how much the alumni was committed to collective good. So acting together, supporting the students, and they are in incredibly good places. They don't their time is valuable, and still they step forward, they come forward, and they try to support in every which way. It was incredibly moving, but it was also one of my professors, again, Ersin Kalaycıoğlu, he was, giving a speech in one of the, graduation ceremonies, and he said something like, graduating from Boğaziçi is like a Catholic marriage. So and at the time, I'm like, whatever. He has the funniest, analogies and expressions. Like, what is this? People are just gonna, put wings on, and we're just gonna fly into great places. And we had good time, and Sports Fest was great. And I'm like, even my year, like this brought my graduating class together, where everyone is every which way, and we have not communicated about anything before, but this, over 100 of us came together, and we're chitter-chattering on WhatsApp, cautiously congratulating each other and joking about what everyone did. And someone says, we have this really powerful hoja, and I, pay them for a good, strong prayer about this guy leaving. I'm like, oh God, the hoja has a really powerful breath, so give some money for a more, for an acceptable, kind and nice rector coming in. So it really brought us again together. It's been 21 years since I graduated, and it's really empowering, but also there is also support from other colleagues that in other universities. Again, I feel like I'm compelled to say something for people who are not openly saying something, that they say this brought some hope. Their hearts jumped, that you can change something, that because it's such a defeated, for the longest time, there's, all the news are depressing, everything is, every little, bubble of liberty is being crushed. So there is a much larger network than Boğaziçi network that loves and appreciates what's happening here.
I see. Thank you very much. And I would remiss if I did not ask. I do want to get your opinion, starting with you, Dr. Eder. Now, Boğaziçi protests have been going on for more than 6 months, technically speaking. I believe last Tuesday marked the 6-month anniversary. And the decision did come, to paraphrase, in the middle of the night. Why do you think the timing was when it was, so to speak? Why did it happen on this, on July 15th, when we know it's quite a symbolic day for the ruling party, AKP? Do you have any thoughts on that?
One of the things about being in the opposition is you don't know how the powers that we operate. We're completely blinded by you don't have, simply because we don't have any access. But there are a lot of speculations. I mean, one of the speculations that I might share is that there's a higher education council. The head of the higher education council is changing, is about to change, or is going to be reappointed. And the higher education council person was the one who actually wanted this vice rector from the beginning. So that was a sort of a political move among them. So there is some sort of an internal political struggle out there that we're not aware of. But there was, I mean, my interpretation of this is that there was also a huge level of discomfort with what is going on, because when you look at it, it's one of the top universities in the country with the brightest kids around are being beaten up, and they're on television for the last 6 months for this whole protest custodies and conflicts and professors sort of on television protesting. So I keep on saying I'm 55 and I sort of learn how to be an activist all of a sudden, which I didn't know this was in me, but we all became and transformed into this because we do want to speak about this and we are really angered about what really happened. So to make the long story short, I really don't know what really went on, and I can't explain the timing except that this was also coinciding with this kind of a tug-of-war between the Higher Education Council and but there is a discomfort with the kind of media attention, and I think that was something I really find it very close to my heart. There was a packaging of Boğaziçi University by the administration that this was an elitist, exclusionary, very anti. Pious students, never really hired enough conservative faculty members, So there was this sort of a packaging, of Boğaziçi as if these faculty members were all sitting by the Bosphorus and drinking their whiskeys, right? This was this almost a missionary school. Add to that, there was a sort of, I think, by our protest, we kind of literally corrected that, corrected this image, primarily saying we are a public university trying to give a good education with very little public resources, mind you. We never really got a good share of that at all. And we still try to keep this a good quality institution with our own values and principles. And we are educating everybody's kid. So even the AKP and the ministers, the AKP representatives are desperate to bring their kids to Boğaziçi, right? I mean, and that's a fact. Let's face it. So, but the moment you take this over, and the moment you bring the quality of this institution down, because we owe that quality to our democratic governance, we owe that quality with our commitment to high standards, and not loyalty to political loyalty, but high academic standards. We have tried to keep those high academic standards throughout this particular period, again, with very little public resources. So I think we presented a correct image of Boğaziçi, and we corrected this kind of mispackaging of university effectively and explained to our students as well as to parents that this is what we're trying to do. This is a public university with a public mission, trying to educate all of the students that are coming from across the country. I mean, one of the beauties of this is, unlike Turkey, which is extremely polarized, this is a place with an incredible variety of views, political views, ideologies among the faculty as well as among the students. You can't, I mean, you should see some of the debates that are happening among us. But that's the beauty of the place. We disagree, we deliberate, the students as well. Students are constantly deliberate on this, but without coming from very different views. And this is a place to be, which is why, we have managed to live together despite our differences, because we have a commitment to this place. And I think this is a model for Turkey, as far as I'm concerned, not the other way around. What I am seeing now is they're bringing in the kind of, political polarization right into the campus, which really is very sad and damaging. Primarily to the academic freedom and the kind of, sort of the different, the variety, the differences, and the colorful elements of the campus as such.
I see.
Went on too long, sorry.
Oh, not at all. Thank you, Dr. Eder and Dr. Çelik-Wiltse. I'd like to finish out with you. Do you share those sentiments? Now, Dr. Eder had mentioned that there was an air of secrecy, of course, with the ruling party. There always is. But do you yourself have any theories as to why this happened now, and what could be the potential repercussions in the future?
I honestly, as a political scientist, we're always compelled to, talk about, what's the election outcome, why. We're very hesitant to speak about, what will happen next. And in terms of, keeping, de-escalating the situation, I don't appreciate, some political party, members saying, now you're going to get it worse. You just kind of aggravated, the leader. Those are not constructive comments. So I agree with Professor Eder that I think the ruling party, the leadership, got the signal that this is a public institution that serves the best to everyone. Just to give you an example, when I worked there as a TA, when we were grading, a lot of times we were told to staple the names so we don't see the names in case we are influenced by whose paper we're reading. Who are we grading from their name, from the connotations of the name? So it is an incredibly meritocratic institution. And and this is done with incredible personal sacrifice. When I look at, I now work in the US, when I look at the caliber of the faculty that works at Boğaziçi, they can work anywhere in the world. They can, and they would be offered, money with their own weight. Like, I am not going to be humble about this. We really have top quality scholars and researchers there. And it is for personal sacrifice. They work there. That commitment is holding them there. The personal sacrifice, nothing. We call this, again, with political science, we have a concept for post-material values. Like, they're not after some, fancy Audi car that you would get for being a rector. It's their satisfaction comes from these other, non-material values. So to sabotage that also sabotages, the quality of education for the ruling party members too. So I think, the process, especially, coming from these, heartfelt, videos from the students and, every which way, every which color, that they saw that there is really genuine diversity within the institution. So all we need is, to not destroy that. You can't build institutions overnight, but you can destroy them.
I see. Doctors, both your inputs have been invaluable today, and I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. And I do believe a congratulations is in order. So congratulations to both and to Boğaziçi in general.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Boğaziçi.
Thank you very much. Moving on to politics, President Erdogan visited to rally in Diyarbakır, a dominant ethnic Kurdish province. Erdogan's party AKP's alignment with MHP, a nationalist party that historically has been staunchly anti-Kurdish, had left most thinking that Erdogan was willing to forego the Kurdish vote in favor of the nationalist vote. Back in early 2000s, when AKP first emerged as the ruling party, Erdogan was praised for being the first Turkish politician to have the courage to seek the support of the ethnic Kurds in the country. This, at first, friendly relationship has deteriorated over the years, leaving most to believe that Erdogan had completely lost interest in the voting bloc. Regardless, Erdogan did make an appearance last week.
Saygılarımı gönderiyorum.
President Recep Tayyip Erdogan visited Diyarbakır after a long pause, last time being on March 9, 2019, to rally for the local elections. Erdogan spoke first at his party's expanded provincial consultative meeting and then at the mass opening ceremony. "You know very well who broke the hearts of the mothers of Diyarbakır," Erdogan said at the start of his speech at the opening ceremony. "You know very well who sends other people's kids to their deaths on top of a mountain while they send their kids to live and study abroad," accusing the PKK and the HDP party, a majority ethnic Kurdish party. Erdogan continued, "Whatever we said in 2005 still remains our position. That's our position today, and it will remain our position tomorrow." Erdogan using the phrase "the Kurdish problem" on his visit to Diyarbakır province as prime minister in 2005 was marked by many experts as the actual start date of the solution process. Erdogan reiterated, "This problem is not just a problem plaguing a particular section of the people. It's everyone's problem. It's also my problem."
President Erdogan's visit to Diyarbakır puzzled many as to why Erdogan would visit a province where hopes of securing a vote are low. Medyascope editor-in-chief Rushan Çakır discussed the visit with Mehmet Kaya, the president of Diyarbakır Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and researcher Cuma Çiçek.
Aslında fiili olarak Kürtlerin siyasal alana katılımı kapatılmış durumda ve bunun da
Active Kurdish participation in the political sphere has been hindered, and Erdogan has played a vital role in this inhibition. The Kurds view Erdogan as a strong leader, but from time to time, this image remains peaceful, or it resembles the hostile relationship of the past. There is no leader or party that has shown the courage shown by AKP in 2002 on the Kurdish issue. Erdogan's non-rivalness on the Kurdish issue helps him maintain his image as a strong leader.
Ne bir parti ne bir lider var. Dolayısıyla hani Erdoğan'ın Kürt meselesinde
muhalefette bu sorunu çöz.
In the opposition, the Kurds are looking for the power to solve the problem rather than the intention to solve it. With a lack of big rises in both the DEVA and Gelecek Party rates in the polls, inevitably people will create an expectation of AKP again. A significant audience claims it won't vote for HDP in an election where AKP aligns with MHP. The majority of these votes will go to DEVA, and the rest will probably go to AKP. At this last rally, AKP was not greeted with the excitement and enthusiasm it expected. Diyarbakır used to embrace AKP more. AKP has lost significant power within this audience.
Economic downturn has long since plagued Turkey. The Turkish Statistical Institute has released the latest numbers on unemployment and on industrial production, one of the mainstays of the Turkish economy. After a slump during the global pandemic, the reports on the recent outlook appear somewhat optimistic on manufacturing. However, the joblessness numbers appear to have plateaued, though with some decline, with almost 4.3 million people reported as being unemployed the past month.
According to data released by the Turkish Statistical Institute, the annual industrial production saw a 40.7% increase, as well as a 1.3% monthly increase in May 2021. Industrial production had grown 66% annually for April 2021, but had dropped 0.9% on a month-on-month basis. The year prior, in April 2020, the numbers had seen a 30.4% monthly and a 31.4% annual drop. The numbers had bounced back in May 2020 with a 17.4% increase and continued to stabilize until March 2021. April 2021 saw both monthly shrinkage in production numbers as well as a reduction in industrial employment number by 212,000. In May 2021, the numbers fell even further by an additional 57,000. According to TUIK's May 2021 data, 21.3% of workers are employed in industry. Turkish Statistics Institute also announced the labor statistics for the month of May. Accordingly, the unemployment rate in May was 13.2%, making the total number of unemployed 4,207,000. Unemployment rate previously was 13.9% in April 2021. The real unemployment rate in May 2021 was 27.2%, down 0.2% from the previous month.
Lake Tuz, meaning Salt Lake, is the second largest lake in Turkey. Bordering the central Anatolian provinces of Ankara, Aksoy, and Konya, Lake Tuz is experiencing a severe drought. As a result, wildlife in the area, including thousands of flamingos, have been found dead on the surface of the lake bed. The primary reason for the drought is cited as environmental impact caused by agricultural land transformation.
Water canals feeding the lake are being blocked off by local farmers for agricultural irrigation, causing the lake to dry up. The recent dry spell has also worsened the drought, exacerbating the already dire impact of climate change. The landscape, resembling a graveyard of flamingos, baffled nature photographers who come to see the birds every year. Nature photographer Fahri Tunç, who documented the thousands of dead adolescent flamingos, commented, "There's not a single flamingo left in and around the lake. We flew 10,000 infants last year and 20,000 the year before. These creatures not found anywhere else in Turkey are dying due to the drought." Tunç added, "All existing canals have been blocked off. We have protested that agricultural irrigation in the area has been ongoing due to the drought and that public land has been encroached upon. Water wells are dug out all over the encroached areas. Though this is a protected area, thousands of probes are dug every day. Despite this being public property, anyone with or without a tractor is working this land." On July 14, the Konya Governor's Office launched an investigation regarding the deaths of flamingos in the Gölyazı region of Lake Tuz. The subject matter expert commission assembled by the Governor's Office has begun investigations.
That's it for us in This Week in Turkey. I am Murat, Türsan, and thank you for joining us.
Türkiye'nin sivil, bağımsız, özgür ve çoğulcu bir medya ortamına ihtiyacı var. Medyascope 20 Ağustos 2015'te bu ihtiyacı karşılamak üzere yola çıktı. Ama yolumuz uzun. Bu yolculukta bize Patreon veya YouTube'un katıl butonu üzerinden katkıda bulunabilirsiniz. Destek verin, sizinle güçlenelim.